Good afternoon to everyone who follows the Meat Lover channel. My name is Kiara, and I've plucked up the courage to write this story for you. I've been dating John for just over a year. He's young, 23, and I'm 26. I met my boyfriend at an electronic party. We're lovers of this kind of entertainment. Whenever possible, we go to all of them. As well as parties, we're also passionate about nature. At weekends, we love going to waterfalls, hiking, and exploring new places. We are adventurers at heart and find peace in the mountains, rivers, and forests. But where our love really blossoms is at parties. My boyfriend has a brother, James. He DJs at small parties and events. My brother-in-law is a very handsome, polite, and charismatic man. Everyone knows James. He's very popular with the party crowd. I'll let you in on another secret. My dream since I was a little girl was to date someone famous, like a singer, actor, or model. But I never had the chance. I know that many of you will judge me because of my dream. I don't mind. My boyfriend, your brother's #1 fan, always tried to go to the parties he was asked to play at. I went with him to all of them. I never missed one. Right after the show, my boyfriend and I went to James's dressing room to congratulate him on his performance and have a chat. The show had been incredible. Arriving at the door to his dressing room, I was greeted with a tight, warm hug. Some friends were already inside, celebrating with James. We went in and started chatting. John had the idea of spending a weekend camping at a campsite a few kilometers outside the city. We decided to invite everyone, especially my brother-in-law. Before continuing with this story of betrayal, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. There are new videos every day. We all agreed to go camping and arranged to meet the next day at my brother-in-law's house. When the day arrived, we got together early and went to the supermarket together. We did all the necessary shopping. We bought meat, bread, salads, snacks, and, of course, lots of drinks. We were excited, planning every detail to make sure we had everything for a perfect barbecue in the countryside. With the car full of bags, we headed back to James's house. We started organizing everything, distributing the tasks between us. Once we'd packed everything into the car, we set off for the campsite. The journey was full of laughter and lively conversation, everyone looking forward to the weekend ahead. When we finally arrived at the campsite, we were amazed by the beauty of the place. The campsite was large, surrounded by many trees, and with several rivers and waterfalls nearby. The sound of running water and birdsong created a peaceful and relaxing atmosphere. As we entered the campsite, we noticed that there were many tents dotted around. It was a popular place to camp, and many people were already there enjoying nature. We found a good space to set up our tents near one of the rivers and started preparing for our barbecue. My brother-in-law parked the car in a secluded spot, so we were well hidden with our friends. I decided to put on a swimming costume, a swimsuit, to enjoy the sun and the proximity of the rivers. I took the sunscreen and went to find my boyfriend so he could apply it to me, but I couldn't find him. That's when I asked my brother-in-law for help. He readily agreed, and when his hands began to apply the sunscreen to my back, I felt something different. James's hands were firm and soft. He touched me in a different, almost caring way. It was a new and unexpected sensation, which made me feel a mixture of surprise and curiosity. After he'd finished rubbing the sunscreen on me, I quickly turned to thank James. But in the process, I noticed something at a glance. There was an obvious bulge in his shorts, and it took me by surprise. It was big, and it looked like something had turned him on. The situation took me aback, but I tried to disguise it and carry on as if nothing had happened. After everyone had enjoyed the day, the energy was starting to wane. Some friends had already gone to bed, while others were venturing around the campsite. I decided to go into my tent to get some insect repellent, and as I entered, I noticed that my boyfriend was sleeping peacefully. But I wasn't sleepy yet, and decided to go out for a breath of fresh air. When I came out of the tent, I noticed that James, my brother-in-law, was alone by the barbecue, playing with his cell phone. The silence of the night and the soft light of the campfire created a peaceful atmosphere. I decided to join him. His presence seemed welcoming, and the idea of a relaxed conversation appealed to me. so we decided to go for a walk around the campsite. The conversation continued to flow naturally, and the closeness made the atmosphere between us more intimate. We walked in no particular direction, enjoying the tranquility of the evening. As we approached the toilets, the conversation became more personal and the tension between us grew. James stopped, looked at me, and, on an impulse, we kissed. It was an intense and unexpected kiss, which quickly evolved into something more. Feeling the need for privacy, we decided to go into the toilets, where the atmosphere was more secluded. There, we experienced an intimate and profound moment, exploring our feelings in an intense way. After leaving the bathroom, we felt lighter, but also a little disoriented by the situation. We went back to the tent area. We tried to act normally, even though everything had changed between us. The rest of the night was filled with thoughts of guilt. I tried to process what had happened and the impact it had on my life and my relationship. When I woke up the next morning, the atmosphere between James and me was strangely cold. He wouldn't look in my direction, acting as if I didn't exist, ignoring me completely. The sudden change in his behavior made me extremely anxious. I watched his movements covertly, trying to understand whether he was sorry or simply ignoring me. James behaved like one of those men who, after getting what they want, lose interest. This left me worried and confused. I didn't know how to act, and above all, I was afraid that he would tell my boyfriend, his brother, everything. Every time they talked, my heart raced, fearing that James might reveal our secret. We spent the whole day at the campsite, and I tried to take part in the activities with the other friends, but my mind was far away. Every time our gazes met, I saw an indifference in his eyes that hurt me. What had happened the night before seemed like a distant dream, and I didn't know how to deal with the guilt and uncertainty that consumed me. Finally, it was time to dismantle the tents and pack up to head back to the city. I took advantage of a moment when James was alone, loading some backpacks into the car, and approached him. "James, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite my anxiety. He continued to tidy up without looking at me directly. "We have nothing to talk about," he replied dryly. "Please, I need to understand what's going on. Are you going to tell your brother?" I insisted, feeling my heart race. He finally stopped and looked at me, his eyes cold and distant. "I'm not going to tell him anything," he said, with a tone that left no room for doubt. "What happened stays between us, but don't expect me to act as if nothing had happened." His words, although they assured me of my secret, brought no comfort. The way he was treating me now, with total indifference, was like a silent punishment. I walked away, feeling a lump in my throat and my head full of chaotic thoughts. During the journey back to the city, I tried to concentrate on the conversations and laughter of the others, but my mind was far away. The weight of guilt and the fear of being found out continued to torment me. James, sitting in the front seat next to his brother, never looked back. We reached the city and each went our separate ways. I was relieved to be going home, but I knew that my relationship with James, and possibly with my boyfriend, would never be the same. Finally, it was time to dismantle the tents and pack up to head back to the city. I took advantage of a moment when James was alone, loading some backpacks into the car, and approached him. "James, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite my anxiety. He continued to tidy up without looking at me directly. "We have nothing to talk about," he replied dryly. "Please, I need to understand what's going on. Are you going to tell your brother?" I insisted, feeling my heart race. He finally stopped and looked at me, his eyes cold and distant. "I'm not going to tell him anything," he said, with a tone that left no room for doubt. "What happened stays between us, but don't expect me to act as if nothing had happened." His words, although they assured me of my secret, brought no comfort. The way he was treating me now, with total indifference, was like a silent punishment. I walked away, feeling a lump in my throat and my head full of chaotic thoughts. During the journey back to the city, I tried to concentrate on the conversations and laughter of the others, but my mind was far away. The weight of guilt and the fear of being found out continued to torment me. James, sitting in the front seat next to his brother, never looked back. We reached the city and each went our separate ways. I was relieved to be going home, but I knew that my relationship with James and possibly with my boyfriend would never be the same. Since then, James has completely ignored me. Every time we meet at parties, he acts as if I'm invisible. It's a painful indifference that I carry with me to this day. My boyfriend, on the other hand, remains oblivious to everything. He loves me deeply and recently asked me to marry him. We plan to get married next year, in 2025. Despite his proposal, my mind is in chaos. I love my boyfriend, and he's been an incredible partner, but the guilt over what happened to James consumes me. I don't know if I can accept marrying him, knowing that I've betrayed his trust in the worst possible way. The prospect of spending the rest of my life with him, carrying this secret, is unbearable. As if that wasn't enough, I recently cheated on my boyfriend again. It was at an electronic party we went to. The loud music, the flashing lights, and the atmosphere all contributed to a night of excess. I was drunk, and the feeling of euphoria made me let my guard down. My boyfriend was distracted by his friends, and in a moment of carelessness, I found myself dancing next to a stranger. He was charming and insistent, and in the heat of the moment, I gave in to temptation. Everything happened so quickly that it seemed unreal. The kisses stolen, the caresses exchanged, and the adrenaline pulsing through my body were enough to make me forget, for a brief moment, the life I had outside that party. We moved away from the crowd and found a more secluded corner. Drunkenness made me act impulsively, without thinking about the consequences. Before I knew it, we were involved in an act of betrayal that I knew I could never undo. The next day, the moral hangover was even worse than the physical one. Guilt and regret consumed me. Every time I looked at my boyfriend, I felt an unbearable weight in my chest. The damage had already been done, and I knew there was no going back. The feeling of dirtiness and the certainty that I had betrayed the trust of the person who loved me most haunted me every second. But I'm sure the alcohol was to blame. The guy looked too much like my boyfriend. With all this in mind, I decided to ask people for their opinion. I need to know what to do. Should I confess everything to my boyfriend and risk losing him forever? Or should I accept the marriage proposal and try to put the past behind me, even though I carry this guilt inside me? I'm lost, and I don't know what the best decision is. I'm asking for help to find a way forward and make the right decision for my future. Please let me know in the comments.